Distinguished participants, first of all, thank you for taking your valuable time today and participating in the battery storage workshop organized by the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. Although we cannot physically get together with you today due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we continue to maintain our solidarity and dialogue in a digital environment. We hope to be able to come together as soon as possible. Dear participants, as we all know, in the process of accession to the European Union, various projects are implemented across many different sectors in preparation for membership. These projects are co-financed by Turkey and the EU through the Instrument for Pre-accession Assistance, IPA, within the scope of the Turkey-EU financial cooperation. As a lead institution in the energy sector, the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources is responsible for the programming, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of EU-funded projects. In this framework, the Energy Sector Phase 2 program has been carried out within the scope of the 2013 program, co-financed by the EU and Turkey, and in cooperation with the World Bank. The program will be completed on May 29, 2021. As you know, Phase 1 program was completed back in 2017. Within the scope of the Phase 2 program, many projects have been implemented in the fields of energy efficiency, energy planning, and the development of energy markets. As the Phase 2 program is drawing to a closure, there will be events held on 3 different days in 3 separate weeks within the scope of this digital activity to present the outputs of the projects in the fields of energy efficiency, battery storage, and data management and digitalization in this energy sector, and to share information on global developments across the fields explored in the projects. The first event, titled Battery Storage Workshop, is being carried out today together with you, our distinguished participants. Battery storage is key for the integration of renewable and clean energy resources into the grid and for a green future. Until 12:40 this afternoon, we will hear about battery storage technologies from our esteemed guests. I wish you all a very productive and pleasant workshop. Without further ado, I would like to invite Ayşe Yasemin Örücü, Senior Energy Specialist and Project Manager from the World Bank, to the microphone for the opening speech.
Distinguished participants, dear project stakeholders, I'm Yasemin Örücü. Since 2014, I have been working in the World Bank in the implementation of the IPA energy sector projects. As you know, this program has enabled comprehensive studies in the energy sector. In the past 7 years, more than 200 experts took active part in the project activities. And I would like to specifically thank the executives and personnel of the Directorate General of Foreign Relations for the activities they have carried out and for the ownership they have portrayed. This ownership has enabled the experts who shape the energy policies of Turkey to access the most comprehensive trainings and to create the infrastructure for global compliance in the energy sector. Throughout these years, together with all the stakeholders, we continued our activities, maintaining our enthusiasm, and many tasks, workshops, trainings, reports, and regulations in the scope of the project. Almost all of them were completed during this process. Our project stakeholders, Directorate General of Energy Affairs, EUAŞ, EVÇET, BOTAŞ, EPİAŞ, EMRA, SGB, we all worked together to consult the most challenging issues with international experts. And the project activities did not only increase the collaboration and communication between these parties, but it also helped deepen the expertise. And the IPA projects became a platform where the most important issues of the sector were debated. I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the three outputs of this project, and I believe these outputs or deliverables will have a significant role in Turkey's transformation to clean energy. Now, first of all, as it will be discussed in detail in the sessions, it's the energy efficiency programs that we ran on hydroelectric power plants and on grids. We had important findings in terms of reducing losses, and we set timelines, and the EUAŞ Energy Generation Company personnel received training to be able to carry out these activities. And then secondly, I would like to state that energy balance charts, data systems, long-term energy planning areas are now all these activities can now be conducted by the Ministry of Energy. They have the capacity for this now, and I believe this will be very beneficial for Turkey, and I would like to congratulate the entire team for these achievements. Thirdly, the awareness raising project in the area of energy efficiency. With the motto Act Smart, Live Efficiently, millions were reached, and this project was adopted by the public and private sectors and by the local governments, and in total, more than 1 billion clicks were received by the social media activities that were conducted. Since the beginning of these projects, there has been important capacity building in the energy sector that we have observed, and this is a significant step in Turkey's green energy transformation. In this transformation, as the World Bank, from energy storage to offshore wind to energy efficiency to emission trade to efficient energy markets to adaptation to climate change to human development to public inclusion, environment, local energy generation, and long-term energy planning activities will be on our agenda. And I hope that the project participants were able to develop and acquire new ideas and were able to build on their existing capacities with further capacity. And I would like to wish you all a fruitful meeting and respectfully greet you all.
Thank you very much, Ayşe Yasemin Örücü. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Öztürk Selvitop, Acting Director General of Foreign Relations and the head of the IPA unit in the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, to the microphone for his keynote speech.
Esteemed speakers, distinguished participants, first of all, I would like to state that I am very happy to be together with you in this event on behalf of my ministry. Today, we have gathered together with you to disseminate the deliverables of the Phase 2 projects that have been conducted in the energy sector jointly with the World Bank and in the scope of the EU-Turkey financial cooperation. We will also be sharing information about the developments both nationally and globally with relation to the project subject areas. I wish we could have been together as part of this event, but due to the pandemic, which has impacted all areas of life, we have come together on the digital environment. I hope that you and your families are well. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us in this digital event. With the workshops carried out today and on the 28th of April, and with the forum which will be carried out on the 5th of May, we will be focusing on battery storage, data management in the energy sector, and energy efficiency. And we will hear from the beneficiaries in the area, from consulting companies and experts. As it is known, in the process of accession to the European Union, various projects are implemented across many different sectors in preparation for membership. And with these projects, we are improving our implementation capacity and our compliance to the EU. And on the one hand, we are focusing on awareness-raising activities. As the lead institution in the energy sector, the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources is responsible for the programming, implementation, and monitoring and evaluation of EU-funded projects. And with the IPA projects in the energy sector, we mostly focus on energy efficiency, renewable energy, and national energy market developments. We have planned IPA projects over 100 million euros, and the programs which take more than half of the funds have already been completed. The first annual program was completed in 2017, September, the Phase 1 program jointly conducted with the World Bank. And currently, we are continuing our Phase 2 programs, again jointly with the World Bank. And in this way, we are able to benefit from the worldwide experience of the World Bank. As part of the Phase 2 program, we are focusing on energy efficiency and energy generation and transmission, development of energy markets, and awareness raising activities. And we have a program which amounts to 11.6 million euros, and this program will be completed on the 29th of May. As part of the Phase 2 program, we realized 19 projects in total, and through these projects, we carried out energy efficiency surveys in the hydroelectric and thermal plants that belong to the electricity generation company. We also had energy efficiency activities carried out in the natural gas and electricity grids of BOTAŞ and TEİAŞ, and we also focused on the feasibility analysis of energy storage. And there was also a information management system and data center to increase capacities in terms of energy planning, modeling, and projection capacities. We also had an awareness raising activity besides all of these activities called Act Smart, Live Efficiently, and we had the Ali's Energy Adventure magazines handed out to 1 million children. So in Phase 2, these activities also helped us increase public awareness in this area. And we would like to proudly state that we will continue our Phase 3 and Phase 4 programs jointly with the World Bank as well. In the Phase 3 program, we will be focusing on household energy efficiency awareness, natural gas market competition strengthening, the increase of efficiency, and the R&D capacity building in power generation as well. And in Phase 4, we will focus on a very important topic for the energy sector of our company, which is exploration of offshore wind energy potential. And our project has already been approved by the EU, and we will be carrying it out jointly with the World Bank. So we are carrying out our preparations for Phase 3 and 4 despite the impacts of the pandemic. Distinguished participants, as you know, Turkey, since 2001, has been undergoing an important transformation in the energy sector. In the first phase of this transformation, the market activities were unbundled and the vertically integrated state monopoly model was eliminated, being transformed into a competitive, transparent, and open market model. And together with this, the privatization of the generation and distribution entities were realized. And EMRA has started its operations. And as a result of all these reforms, there was an advanced level of compliance with the EU. Together with this, in 2017, our ministry also adopted a new national energy and mining policy, and we went through a second transformation process. The basic motivation behind this policy was to decrease dependency on foreign resources, which is very important for the national economy of Turkey, and to embrace an environmentally sensitive, sustainable energy system. National energy and mining policy principles also underline the indigenization of energy and the transformation to renewable energy. In the past decade, the renewable energy installed capacity was increased by 11%. In the next decade, we want to add 1 gigawatts of solar and 1 gigawatts of wind energy capacity every year to our installed capacity. And our current share is 52% of renewable energy within the total installed power. IRENA had an announcement in 2020 about the renewable installed power, and in this scope, with 2.5 gigawatts of hydroelectric installed power, Turkey ranked second after China, and with 99 megawatts of new geothermal installed power addition, we ranked the first in the world. Also, to be able to access sustainable, clean energy and to avoid the disadvantages of intermittent renewable energy, battery and storage technologies are very important. But we can say that in terms of advancement, battery and storage technology advancements are falling behind compared to the advancements in renewable energy. So focus on these aspects are very important. I would also like to state that our ministry has a very ambitious energy efficiency program. We have 55 actions planned as part of the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan. And our plan is to have $11 billion of investment in the area of energy efficiency until 2023. And we want to decrease primary energy consumption by 14%. And our activities are continuing rapidly to enable energy efficiency in the public arena as well. And our ministry declared recently that we have had $635 million of investment in energy efficiency in 2020. And as a result of these investments, $158 million of savings were made, which is equivalent to 451,000 tons of oil. And besides all of this, digitalization and data management have gained significance in the energy sector in Turkey as well, especially after the COVID period. We can see that digital technologies are taking more and more place in the energy sector, and the IPA Phase 2 projects are also providing important contribution for adaptation to global trends in this area. Distinguished stakeholders, the policy makers of our day mostly focus on the new dynamics in the energy sector and how to manage demands and to integrate new technologies into the market. I believe that the Phase 2 program has had important inputs in this area, and I hope that these events will also prove to be very efficient and beneficial. I would like to thank all our speakers for sparing their valuable times for us, and I would like to thank our participants for taking part in our event, and I hope we will get together in the upcoming phases as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Öztürk Selvitop. Now I would like to invite Mr. Ümit Çetinkaya, engineer at TİAŞ, the Turkish Electricity Transmission Company, to deliver his presentation titled Battery Storage and Other Storage Alternatives in Power Grid Management. The floor is yours, Mr. Çetinkaya. Hello, this is Ümit Çetinkaya. I am an engineer at TİAŞ, Turkish Electricity Transmission Company, the Planning, Investment and Management Department. I've been working here since 2019, and I'm also a PhD candidate at Gazi University. Today in my presentation, I will be talking about battery storage and other storage alternatives in power grid management. I will be giving some detailed information. This is the outline of my presentation. I will talk about energy transformation in Turkey and in the world, the need for grid flexibility, energy storage systems, and the energy storage systems activities that we carry out at TİAŞ. As we all know, in the world and in Turkey in the last years, we have been mainly focusing on wind energy and solar energy, and the total installed capacity of renewable energies is increasing every single day. When we look at the main data, in 2015, the total installed capacity of the renewable energies was 40% around the world, and today it has increased, and by 2050, this capacity will be increasing to 60% or higher. And this increase in total capacity is mainly going to come from solar and wind energy. When we look at the share of renewables in total generation, we have 24% from renewables at the moment, but in the future, the share of renewables will increase to 85%. And about more than 50% of this will be coming from wind and solar energy. Well, when we look at the last 5 years for Turkey, we can say that in 2016, the total grid installed capacity was about 73,000 megawatts, and 41% of this came from renewable resources, and out of this, about 57% came from solar and wind power. But as of 2021 April, we can say that the total installed capacity is almost 100,000 megawatts or 96 gigawatts, and the solar and wind capacity has increased 15%. So, in the upcoming period, the solar and wind capacity, currently we have allocated 18,000 megawatts for wind and 12,000 megawatts for solar. So, for the coming period, and within the existing grid structure in this energy transformation, the renewable energy resources, especially the solar and wind energy capacities, are going to be addressed in terms of finding solutions for the generation issues. So let's take a look at the resource generation profile based on the data coming from recent years, looking at the generation mix and energy diversity. We see that for hourly generation, the participation or penetration of solar and wind power is about 10%, but especially in spring periods, there is an increase in the dams and river flows. So the share of conventional resources in the grid goes down, and in terms of grid management or operation, this brings along certain challenges. So we can see that. So these capacities, according to the future wind and solar capacities, we can say that in the future we're going to have more of these challenges. So when we take a look at the solar and wind penetration compared to the conventional resources, for 2020, the maximum wind and solar generation, hourly generation, and penetration was about 23%. But we also have to say that generally when generation is low, the penetration of solar and wind is kept available at all times, and when we have minimum consumption and maximum solar and wind generation, the grid operation or management will be difficult. This is what the graph shows us. So what is a grid flexibility? It's about managing the demand and supply with a minimum cost in the best feasible way. So we have this increasing renewable energies and these changing generation conditions. We need to increase the flexibility both on the supply side and demand side. For instance, the net load, we need to be able to monitor the supply according to the net load and manage the demand accordingly. But of course, what we need to do is to make sure that supply is provided at all levels of the grid. So the grid operation, we need to invest in the grid operation and expand the grid accordingly through the investments. But these unbalanced scenarios, coupled with increasing demand, require certain changes. There might be some restrictions in the wind or solar energy generation, or we can overcome this lack of balance through storage facilities. And on the consumer side, again, storage facilities and systems are going to be an important alternative. And of course, in systems where we can control the market participation of consumers, we can increase flexibility. Okay, let's take a look at the energy storage systems. What are they and what's their role in increasing the flexibility? Well, we can assess them from two perspectives. One is that energy storage can take place in the form of storing the energy and using it whenever needed or required, or the electricity generated through the energy resource can be stored. So there are two ways of storage, energy storage. So it pertains to consumption and generation. There is a two-way utilization of this, and in terms of grid flexibility, this is an important opportunity. So energy storage systems and methods can be classified under 5 different groups. These are electrochemical storage, mechanical storage, chemical storage, thermal storage, and electrical storage. So these are the methods for storing energy. Briefly, let's go through some examples. Mechanic storage methods are composed of pumped systems, compressed air storage, and then we have thermal storage carried out through molten salt, heating or cooling through concrete, or again thermal methods. What about chemical storage methods? They are done through hydrogen and fuel cells. And other electrochemical storage methods are composed of batteries, of course, the liquid batteries, lead acid, lithium ion, sodium sulfur, and nickel cadmium. These are the electrochemical storage methods. And lastly, about electric storage, we have supercapacitors and superconductive magnetic energy storage systems. So comparing these storage systems, we can say that there are many different applications, varieties, and methods for storage all around the world. In terms of technology, we have different means, but most of them are still at the research and development phase, and some of them are recently being implemented, and maybe in the upcoming period, in the coming years, they will be the storage systems will be using new methods and new applications will be there. But looking at the current situation, we can say that all around the world, the main method is the mechanic methods, and these are actually the pumped hydro storage. And for batteries, we can talk about lithium-ion, sodium sulfur, and lead acid batteries that are highly advanced and developed. Again, in terms of the services that it can provide and the duration of the services it can provide, we can say that pumped hydro batteries are used at large grid levels. From seconds to hours, they can be used within the grid. And we have the super capacitors that are developed most recently. They can go up to megawatts within the grid. So, in terms of grid applications, what kind of services can be there? In terms of supply and demand, we can use these storage services. So they can be applied to many different services. But looking at the main services, we can say that we have the energy storage and control systems, frequency control, spinning reserves as we call them, or voltage regulation, or black start as we define it. These are the auxiliary services. Then in terms of infrastructure services, we have investments regarding the grids. So we can use the grid infrastructure for reserves, and this can be used to defer the investments as an alternative. And we have finally, customer energy management services. This is valid for all the consumers. So use of battery technologies is going to be an important alternative in the future. So let's take a look at the use cases for these systems. As I said, pumped hydro storage systems are used all around the world for higher than 160 gigawatts. And then we have thermal storage systems. The molten salt method is used all the way up to 2.5 gigawatts. And then the most used electrochemical method is lithium-ion batteries. It's used all the way up to 1 gigawatts. So, looking at them and the use cases for grid operation, we can say that they are used to control energy, deferral, frequency regulation, creating reserve capacity. So, pumped hydro and electrochemical batteries are mainly used in these areas. So, we can say that for the Turkish electricity system for the upcoming years, looking at the use cases for energy storage systems, we can say that they can be used to cater to the need of supply and demand balance, provision of ancillary services, and they can be used together with the renewable energy resources. So as TEİAŞ, in terms of storage systems, what have we done so far? As you know, in the last 2-3 years, we had ongoing projects within the framework of which we have worked at an institutional level. And let's go through what we have done. First of all, concerning the storage facilities, we have had some academic research and practical research. We have identified a roadmap, we have prepared reports, we made a needs analysis for Turkey, and we tried to see how we can use the storage systems for the upcoming period. In terms of the existing or current situation of storage systems in Turkey, what is the existing situation? We assessed this and what kind of future facilities we can have. We had certain cost benefit analysis for TEİAŞ and for our country. So, again, let's take a look at the pumped hydro and its breakdown all around the world. We can say that pumped hydro are dominant, and then we have electrochemicals, lithium ions following. And of course, looking at the breakdown of renewable energies in other countries, we can say that many countries such as Austria, where there is a high renewable energy potential, and Denmark, for instance, they also have a high wind potential, or Japan, Germany. Pumped hydro systems are already installed to a certain extent. However, in our country, looking at our existing installed capacity for renewables, although we have a potential of about 50% for pumped hydro, currently we do not have any existing systems. So, in 2016, we have a research activity carried out by the European Commission. This shows the water reserves and the topology of different countries and comes up with their potential pumped hydro systems. So Turkey, compared to other European countries, have a great advantage, as the research indicates. And after this research, the Japanese JICA agency also carried out another research. For Turkey, they have identified 6 locations for pumped hydro systems to be established. And this is included in the investment program by EÜAŞ, and a planning activity is done accordingly. So, this is the Gökçekaya pumped hydro, 1,400 megawatts. If this is done In terms of grid
çalışmalarını
improvement, what kind
gerçekleştirdiğimizde
of benefits will it bring?
mevcut durumda belki
We have assessed
elektlerin
this.
belki
So
günümüzde bile
we can
kullanılması
say
mümkün
that pumped hydro
kılabilecekken özellikle
systems are
gelecekte
going to be beneficial
toplam
for
pilli
today,
gücün
but
ve üretim
especially for
yenilenebilir
future,
enerji
they are going to be
kullanım gücünün de
even more
arttığı yeni bir
necessary
tüketim
because the total
saatlerinde
installed
yüksek
power
güçlü tüketim ihtiyacını
for the
dengeleme
renewables
noktasında
will be
elektlerin
increased,
büyük
and the
bir
pumped
faydası
hydro
olacağını
systems will
söylemek mümkün.
really be
Yine
beneficial to balance the
özellikle
consumption need, especially
yenilenebilir
when there
enerji
is a peak
kaynaklarına katılım
load.
oranı fazla olduğu
And when we
noktalarda da
have
yan
uh,
hizmetler dediğimiz
higher
esas
penetration of
noktalarda
renewable energy
dolayısıyla
resources,
büyük bir
in
fayda
terms of
getireceğini
auxiliary
söylemek mümkün
services, they are going
diyebiliriz.
to be very
Diğer
beneficial as
batarya
well.
depolama
So,
sistemleri için
when we take a look
incelediğimiz
at
hizmetler
the other
ise primer
services for
sekonder
battery storage
frekans
systems, we
takibi,
can talk about primary and
yenilenebilir
secondary
enerji
frequency
kaynakları
control
için
services.
özelleştirme,
We have
arbitraj,
balancing
güç hizmeti ve
services,
özellikle bizim kendi
arbitrage,
kurumsal
and
çalışmalarımızda
congestion
mevzuat
management.
altyapını
And of
etkin
course, we
şartlarında
have carried
çalışmalar
out
ve son
works
olarak
on the
ise
legislation and
bir
technical specifications,
prototip
and we have
aşamasındaki
prototype and
çalışmalardan
pre-feasibility
bahsetmiştim.
activities that were carried out.
Bataryaların primer ve
Primary and
sekonder
secondary markets for
piyasaları için
batteries.
katılımı durumları için
First of all,
öncelikle primer ve sekonder
for the primary
piyasalarına
and secondary
hizmet
markets,
verecek
the
bataryanın
batteries to
optimum
serve in these
kapasite
markets need to have an
sınırı, yani
optimum
optimum enerji ve güç
energy
sınırı
and power
kapasitelerinin
capacity. We
hangi
need to
oranda olması ve
identify this
hangi
first, and
şekilde yapılması şeklinde bazı
certain
matematiksel
mathematical
modellemelerle
calculations and modelings have
yatırma ve
been
işletme
made to
koşullarını
identify the
değerlendirerek çalışmalar
investment and
yaptık.
operational
Ve
costs.
buradaki özellikle
And
ekonomik
as a result of the
değerlendirmelerde
economic
mevcut
assessments, we can say that
piyasa
under the
koşullarındaki
current market
SPK ve
uh,
SPK fiyatlarından yola çıkarak amortisman
situation, we
maliyetlerini
have
çalıştık.
calculated the
Burada yatırım ve
amortization
işletme maliyetinin en
prices
belirleyici
based on
faktörü
the uh,
bataryaların
energy
birim fiyat
sources.
maliyetleri.
And of course, the most
2018 yılı
important
kapsayan
factor here is the
çalışmalarda
unit
yaklaşık
prices.
$500.000
It
civarında
used to be about
1 megawatt ve 1 megawatt
$500,000
saatlik
for
bir
one
batarya kullanıp aynı
megawatts
bataryanın
for the
kullanımını
installation of one
öngörüyorduk. Ama bu
lithium-ion
2020
battery.
fiyatları
But
ve gelecek dönemki
looking at the
tahminlere
future
bakıldığında bu oranın
forecasts, we can
e,
say that
2018
according to the
tahminlerine göre
2018
2025
forecasts,
yılına doğru
by
bu oranın yarıya
2025, this
yarı oranda
amount
azalacağını
will
söylemek
be
mümkün.
reduced by half.
2018 yılındaki yaptığımız
So in 2018,
çalışmalarda
in our
SPK
research
hizmeti ve SPK
activities,
hizmetine
in
katılım
terms of
durumunda
the
amortisman sürelerin 10 yıl,
primary
20 yıl
and
civarında
secondary
azalacağını
utilization, we had
söyleyebiliriz.
foreseen a
Ama
10-year
özellikle
amortization
SPK sistemi için
process.
bu yıl 10 yıldan
However,
daha
this can be
sürebilmesi
reduced even
daha
further,
çok mümkün
especially for the
görünüyor. Bundaki
primary
temel sebep birim
one,
fiyatların
because unit
düşmesi
prices are going down.
ni örnek verebiliriz.
And
Bir de primer PFK
for
hizmetiyle primer ve sekonder
primary
hizmet verecek
and
e,
secondary frequency
bataryanın
control
kurulu
batteries,
güç
the installed
maliyetinin SPK'da
power
çok daha fazla olduğundan
cost is higher
amortisman
for the
süresi PFK
secondary
hizmetine şu an için daha çok
frequency
fazla
control.
görünüyor.
So the
Bu
amortization
çalışmalara
again will be
nihayetinde
higher for the
bakıldığında
secondary
özellikle
market.
batarya kullanım
So when
maliyetinin
we look
gelecek
at
dönemlerde daha
the
çok
installment costs for
azalacağını
batteries, it's going to be much
öngörürsek
reduced in the
PFK ve
future, as we
SPK
said.
hizmeti ve
So
batarya
keeping that in
hizmetlerinde
mind, in terms of
gelecek
the battery
dönemlerde daha çok
services for
uygulanabilir
primary and
olacağını
secondary frequency
düşünüyoruz.
control for
Ve
the future,
bu
the
hizmetlerden
costs
de
will be reduced and we will
faydalanmalarımızı
be benefiting more from these
bekliyoruz.
services in the future.
Yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarıyla beraber kullanılmasında da
In terms of
ise
using them together with the
mevcut
renewable
koşullar
energy
ve
resources
mevcut
and
üretim
looking at the
durumlarında
existing
aslında
generation
bu şu an için bu
figures,
konuda
we
bir
can
problem
say that
yaşanmıyor.
currently
Ama
we don't have any
bataryaların bu
problems
konuda
regarding that. But
hizmet
when the
verdiğinde ise
batteries will be providing
yine birim
services,
maliyetine bağlı
again,
olarak çok
based on the
ekonomik görünmüyor.
unit price,
Ama burada
this doesn't
grafikte
seem
özellikle
to be very
göstermek istediğim
economical. But
farklı
what I'm
dönemlerde
trying to
farklı alan
show you here
büyüklüklerinde
through
olan
this
bir
graph
besin
is that
sabitlanmak
because
üzere
of
farklı
certain
nedenlerden dolayı
weather
doğru
conditions such as
noktasında
clouding, if there
üretim
is a
değişkenliğinin
generation
burada örneklerine
uh,
baktığımızda
if there's a change
bataryaların özellikle
or variation in the generation, then for
restri
renewable
kaynaklarla
energies
birlikte
like solar and
kullanıldığında
wind,
bu
when
üretim
batteries are used
güncünleştirilmesi
together
hem
with them,
şebeke açısından,
it's
şebeke
really
faaliyetleri
beneficial
açısından
for
hem
grid
de yatırım
activities
bütçesi
and
açısından
for
büyük bir fayda getireceğini söylemek
regulation
mümkün.
of the
Bu nedenle
generation.
yet
So,
üretimleriyle
when the
beraber
batteries are
kullanılması
used together with the
bataryaların
renewable
gelecek
energy
dönemde
resources,
büyük bir fayda
they are going to
sağlayacağını
be very
söyleyebiliriz.
beneficial and useful in the
Arbitraj
future.
kullanımına
What about use
gelirsek
of
arbitraj kullanımı
arbitrage? As
temel
a
tanım olarak ucuz
definition, we
saatlerde
can say
enerjinin
that it's
batarya ya
about
da herhangi sistemler
storing
depolama
energy in
sistemlerinde
batteries or in the
depolabilmesi ve
system
piyasa
when the
koşullarında
price
her
is
geliri
cheap,
bulduğunda tekrar
and then
üretim olarak
selling it again
satılabilmesi.
as
Bununla alakalı
generation when the
gerçekleştirilen
prices are
çalışmalarda
higher.
2018,
So,
2015
Between
2018 yıla kadar
2015 and 18, we have had
fiyatların
some studies,
saatlik
and the
ücret pazar
price
adındaki
differences
farklarını
per hours were
belirlemek için
identified.
çalışmalar yapıldı. Özellikle
Especially in
gece
Turkey, we
gece
have
gündüz
difference
saatlerinde
in
6
daytime and
saatlik
nighttime.
depoda
So
daha optimum bir
a more
seviyeyi
optimum
yakaladığı ve 6 saatlik kalıplarda
level
enerji
has
üretiminin ve
been reached,
tüketiminin
and
yapıldığında
we have made the
arbitraj
calculations.
yapılmasının
And during these times,
nominal bir kazanç sağlayacağını
arbitrage
öngörüldü.
will
Ama
be
bu
bringing
çalışmalardaki
some
kazanç
cost benefits. But
ortalamasına
when we look
bakıldığında
at the
yılda
average,
yaklaşık 34 bin dolar euro
it's going
gibi
to
bir
be
kazanç
a
öngörüldü.
benefit of
Bunda
34,000 euros
birim
per
yatırım
year.
maliyetine göre
So,
ve işletme
looking at
maliyetine
the
göre bakıldığı
investment
bataryalar
costs
için
for
çok
batteries,
ekonomik
economically
açıdan
speaking, this
geçerli
is not going
olmayacağı
to be very
kanaatindeyiz.
economical and it's not going to be
Şebeke kısıtlık
sufficient.
yönetimi açısından ise
In
bizim
terms of
TYH
grid
açısından sık
congestion
karşılaştığımız bölgesel
management,
hat kısıtları ya da
we
gerilim regülasyonları alanı problemi yaşadığımız
have certain
bölgelerde
issues
yarı üretim halinde
based on
olanlarda
voltage
dahi
regulation in
bataryaların
certain
kullanımının
areas. So
yıllık
batteries can
bazda
be used in
değerlendirmeye
these
yönelik
areas.
bazı çalışmalar
So
yaptığımızda
in the
geçmiş
previous
dönem
period, we have
yaşanan
had
mekanik
some
olaylar alınarak
cases.
aynı
So we worked on these
çözümlerin,
cases
mevcut
to
çözümlerin
come
yanı
up
sıra
with new
bataryada
solutions,
çekildiğinde ne
and we
gibi fayda
tried to
sağlayacağını
calculate what kind
öngördüğümüzde
of additional
bataryaların
benefits
sağlanması
there would be
oldukça
if
ekonomik
batteries are used.
açıdan çok yüksek
So
maliyetli
we have
olacağı
seen
için
that there
şu
would be
açıdan
very high
çok
costs if
uygun
batteries are
olmadığını
used. So
söyleyebilirim.
currently they
Oldukça
are not feasible
yetersiz durumda. Bunun
in
sebebi de
terms of their
mevcut
use
yatırım
in the grid
altyapısında
congestion management. So if the
geliştirilmediği
grid is
ya da yatırım
expanded, or
maliyetlerinin ya da
if
işletme
the
maliyetlerinin
operational
daha
costs,
açık
our
olduğunu
investment
söyleyebiliriz
costs
bataryaların
are changed,
üretiminde.
then maybe the situation
Ve
will change.
nihayetinde
But currently, battery costs are higher.
devam eden
We also
çalışmalar
have ongoing
nezdinde
activities.
bir bataryanın teknik
We are
şartname ve
working on the
tasarım
basis of
teknikleri
technical
ve bunun kurulum
specifications and
esasları nasıl
design
belirlediği
specifications for
ve
batteries.
saha
We are
yerleşiminden tutun da teknik şartname ve
trying to
tasarımına
see the
göre
site
bir
location of a
batarya
battery
enerji
and
sisteminin
how a
nasıl
battery
olacağına dair
energy system can be
yaptığımız bu
established.
çalışmaların
So
biraz piyasaya dönük
we are
yatırımcılar açısından ya
making all
da
these
TEİAŞ açısından
calculations for the
geleceğe yönelik
investors or
açısından
for
değerlendirmek için
TEİAŞ
bir
as
örnek
well.
fon
So we
teklifi
had this
çalışması yaptık. Bununla
pre-prototype
ilgili olarak da
study, and
Çanakkale
we have
bölgesini seçtik.
chosen
Bunun
Çanakkale
Gazelme
as the
merkezinde
site.
olan bir TM'de, kum
In
limanı
Kum
TM'de
Limanı
herhangi bir gaz
substation,
güvenlik
we have
probleminde
made a
backup
backup
yani
plan if there
yedek
is an outage
arıza
in terms of
sağlansam bir
provision
bataryanın
of
olduğu,
supply. We have
olmayan çalışma koşullarında ise prim hizmeti
we
sağlayacak
use
bir bataryanın
batteries for primary
bir tesis
generation,
ayarlıyorduk. Bununla
and
alakalı saha
field work,
çalışması,
design,
tasarım ve piyasadan böyle bir
field work and design has been
bataryanın e, ihale ya da temin durumunda
chosen,
nasıl bir maliyete
and the
karşılık
costs have
yapılacağına
been
dair
calculated
hazırlık
if the
yaptık
batteries
diyebilirim.
are
Ve
supplied from the
nihayetinde
market.
aslında yaptığımız
So as a
ekonomik
result of our
değerlendirmelerle
economic assessments and with
gerekli
this
infrateknik
pre-prototype
çalışması yardımcılarından
feasibility
birebir bir
study, we can
uyumlu ve
say that
yakın
the
olduğunu
figures are
öngörüyoruz.
compatible
Bizim
with one
TEİAŞ
another.
açısından bu
So
çalışma en
from
azından
the
kendimizi
perspective of
doğrulamış
TEİAŞ,
olan bir
at least we have
çalışmaydı.
proven our
Oldukça değerli bir çalışmaydı
arguments. So this
bizim
has
için.
been a very valuable study for us.
Nihayetinde
So
TEİAŞ açısından depolama
to make an
sistemlerini
overall
değerlendirecek
assessment
olursak,
of storage systems for
depolama
TEİAŞ, we can
sistemleri
say that
enerji
the
dönüşüm
storage systems
sürecinde
within this
ülkemizin de
energy
gelecekteki
transformation
şu anda
process
gelecek
are
dönemlerdeki
going to
işlev
be more and
sürecinde
more
sürdürülebilir
important in
enerji
terms of
kaynaklarının
grid
artışıyla
flexibility for our
şebeke esnekliği
country.
açısından çok önemli hale geleceğini
We can
söyleyebiliriz.
definitely say
Tabii
that.
batarya sistemlerinin
And
yüklenen birim fiyat
of
azalırsa
course, when
bu
the
buna göre daha
unit
sonra yapacaktır.
cost
Ve kapasite
decreases as
artışlarında ve
expected
kontrolünde
for the battery
depolama
systems, they
sistemleri
will become
uzatılır,
more
planlamaların
feasible and
yapılması
applicable.
şebeke
Of
açısından
course,
da
in
eminim
terms of the
yatırımcılar
grid and in
açısından da
terms of the
önemli hale
investors,
gelecektir ve bu
they're
konuda
going
bir
to be very
planlama yapılması
important when used in
oldukça
hybrid
önemli.
applications.
Ve
So,
özellikle RES ve GES gibi değişken
especially
üretim kaynaklarının depolama ile hibrit
solar
uygulamalarda
energy
da
and wind
değerlendirmeler
energy,
yapılabilir.
these uh,
Ve gelişen ve değişen depolama
varying
alternatiflerine
power
baktığımız
sources can
baktığımız
be
zaman
stored through
bunun çok
these
iyi takip
storage
edilmesi ve
systems.
doğru
And
şekilde
of
verimli
course, we need
uygulanması
to
için
monitor closely all
TEİAŞ
the
açısından da sektör açısından
new technologies being
yönlendirmeler
developed in the field
yapılması
of
önemlidir.
storage, and we need to keep ourselves updated with the
Bugünkü
technologies.
yaptığım sunumda
So, in my
TEİAŞ açısından ve
presentation
belki de
today,
ülkemiz açısından
I talked
depolama
about the
sistemlerinin
storage
de önemli
systems and their
gelecek
importance
dönemde
for TEİAŞ and
karşılaşacağımız
for our
problemleri aktarmaya
country. I
çalıştım.
also tried to talk about some
Umarım
problems we might face in the future. I hope this
faydalanabilmişimdir.
has been useful for you.
Katılımcılara ve
I would like to
beni
thank the
dinleyen herkese çok
participants and
teşekkür ediyorum.
everyone for their attention. Thank you. We would like to thank Mr. Ümit Çetinkaya for his presentation. We will continue our program with a presentation by Ms. Claire Müne from EDF about the analysis of energy storage systems project in the context of battery storage in transmission and distribution grids.
Welcome to the Battery Storage in Transmission Grids presentation. My name is Claire Munet and I am a network study engineer. I graduate from the École nationale de l'électronique et de ses applications and I have a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering and Information Technology from the Technische Universität München in Germany. I am currently working at the EDF Power System and Transmission Engineering Center. My activities are mainly focused on electrical systems, transmission master plan, and storage. Among my international experience, I took part to the project Analysis of Energy Storage Systems that we will discuss in the second part of this presentation. The agenda of this meeting is the following. First, I will present the global state of play-in and prospects for utilization of battery storage systems in electricity transmission grid management, and then I will present the key outputs of the IPA 2013 CS01D Analysis of Energy Storage Systems project with TEIAS. First, we will look at the global state of play-in and prospects for utilization of battery storage systems in electricity transmission grid management. First, let's talk about the different batteries technologies and the evolution of their costs. As you may know, there are various types of battery technologies that are used in many different areas or activities. Here are represented the four main types of batteries. First, the lead-acid batteries. They are robust and cheap, but the drawback is that their lifetime is limited by the number of cycles, so they are mainly used for industrial use with a low solicitation. Then you have the sodium batteries. They have a good cyclability and it is possible to have large energy applications. The drawback is the high price of this technology. These batteries, sodium batteries, are used in combination with renewable energy projects such as wind power or PV plants. The third battery technology listed here is the redox flow. These batteries have a good longevity, but the drawback is that they have a large footprint and are not very efficient because the technology is not mature yet. And finally, you have the lithium batteries. Within the lithium batteries, there are different technologies, and the one that stands out as the reference today is the lithium-ion. This technology has a high versatility, a good cyclability, and the costs are constantly decreasing. As you can see on the graphic in the right corner, between 2013 and 2020, the cost of lithium-ion batteries decreased about 79%. The lithium-ion technology is a reference in electromobility. 60% of the lithium-ion batteries in the world is produced for the automotive industry. This massive production highly participates to the decrease of the cost of the lithium-ion technology. Currently, this technology is more often used also for energy application. Once the technology is chosen, above all of the technology presented here, all the battery used for energy applications and batteries for transmission grids are composed of many modules plus a system to manage and control the current. And finally, a converter is added in order to produce alternate current. The question now is, what are the specific usage of this kind of storage? What role could the battery storage have in electrical system? The figure represents different storage technologies, ranked by growing energy volumes, delimited by time range, like seconds, minutes, hours, and on the last line, the different services or use case of the storage technologies are listed. We will focus on the batteries. As you can see, batteries can store or deliver energy within a time frame that goes from seconds to 1 day. This means that depending on the power of the batteries, this kind of storage can technically participate to frequency control services, congestion management, curtailment mechanism, hourly or daily arbitrage. The batteries can participate to these services. It is feasible from a technological point of view, but it doesn't mean that this is economically viable. It will depend on the context and on the specificity of the electrical system. As examples, EDF has several batteries projects used for frequency regulation. The project McHenry in the USA is a 20 megawatt capacity and is operational. An extension of this installation is currently under project to achieve more than 60 megawatts. EDF also won a 49 megawatt bid at the 2016 call for tender by National Grid in the United Kingdom. And there are also several projects to have frequency regulation with batteries in French islands. New services are rising for batteries, such as the fast frequency response. Technological issues due to high penetration of renewable energy lead to use batteries. In particular, in islands, the use of storage for frequency regulation enables sound business models. Battery storage can provide synthetic inertia, which is useful in islands, especially with high renewable energy integration. In England, recent call for tenders have been launched on a new enhanced frequency regulation service. And Ireland also proposed such a new ancillary service. The second point is that market regulation can favor the storage, like in the US with the pay-for-performance regulation. Let's have an outlook on batteries. As we see, the lithium-ion batteries is the reference technology today. There have been strong technical progress, and we see a decrease in prices over the years. This technology is appropriate for services on the transmission grid like frequency response or arbitrage. The second part of the presentation is about the key outputs of the IPA 2013 CS01D Analysis of Energy Storage Systems project with TEIAS. The project started in 2018 and ended in 2020. The objective of the project was to assist the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources of Turkey and Turkey's transmission and system operator TEIAS to develop a vision of the future of battery storage in Turkey for some selected use case. To achieve this objective, EDF offered a large panorama of storage in the world more specifically in Europe. An analysis of the different technologies of storage has been performed. Presentation of some relevant and current battery projects in the world have been done. Technical concerns, regulation frameworks, and incentives have been exposed. The second objective of the project was to identify and discuss the potential of battery storage in Turkey. For two main services, this has been done: congestion and primary and secondary reserve. Assessment of the potential in Turkey has been performed, and EDF transferred its knowledge and methods to Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources and TEAS. Finally, EDF also drew some recommendations for the optimal deployment of batteries in Turkey regarding regulation, economics, technical aspects, like the type, size, and location of battery. At the end of this project, the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources and TEAS acquired all the knowledge, information, and skills to elaborate a battery storage roadmap for Turkey. This project involved many stakeholders. First, as already mentioned, the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. Then, one of the principal beneficiaries of this project was the Turkish transmission and system operator, TEAS. 3 departments of TEAS have taken part: the Local Dispatch Center, Planning and Investment Management Department, and the Research and Development Department. Then, the Energy Market Regulatory Authority, EMRA, and the Association of Distribution System Operator, ELDER, also participate to the workshops organized during this project. Finally, yet importantly, the World Bank and the European Union have followed every task of this successful project. One of the key outputs of this analysis of energy storage system project is the topic Needs Assessment for Energy Storage Systems. I will present the summary of the results regarding this subject. The first outcome considering needs assessment for energy systems is that primary reserve is the most relevant service to provide with battery in Turkey. More precisely, half of the demand could efficiently be provided by batteries by 2030, which represent 150 megawatt out of 275 megawatt in total. However, as the cost of battery is continuously decreasing, the cannibalization effect may dissuade investors. Finally, EDF demonstrated that other grid-scale services have no economic interest for Turkey. So the following services are not economically viable: arbitrage, renewable energy source smoothing, fast primary reserve, secondary reserve, congestion management. Another important outcome that I would like to emphasize is the capacity building provided within this project. The workshop and trainings held during the project have been the occasion to transfer knowledge and discuss with the participants. The results of the survey show that these meetings have been successful. The site visit in France has been the occasion to discuss further with all the EDF research and development experts about batteries and also benefit from their experience. the tools developed within the project regarding battery modeling for different services, congestion management, primary and secondary reserve, arbitrage, race smoothing, have been transmitted to the client during a training and are easily understandable thanks to associated user guides. EDF has transmitted its theoretical knowledge and experience. The trainings were also a chance to run applications for the Turkish system, and the client possesses now all the capabilities to deal with the subject of energy storage. To sum up and conclude, this table presents the main conclusions. First, the needs. The main service that can be delivered in Turkey by batteries is FCR. Market design. EDF recommends private sectors as the role of investor. However, cannibalization is a real issue. Regulation. EDF recommends to define a clear and stable regulation for storage in Turkey in order to reassure the investors. Organization. In case no battery are installed by the private sector and TEAS wants to own and operate by itself, EDF recommends to use a turnkey solution model with EPC and owner's engineer company. Several EPCs were interested following the market research. Capacity building. Workshops and tutorials have been held on technologies, characteristics, business models and costs, techno-economic assessment, energy economics, grid studies, technical specification writing, prototype pre-feasibility study. Thank you all for your participation, and I wish you a pleasant day.
We would like to thank Ms. Claire Munet for the information she has shared. We have a 15-minute break now. After the break, we look forward to seeing you again.
Enerji, insanların yaşamlarını sürdürebilmeleri için gerekli bir kaynak, ülkelerin refahını sağlamak için de en önemli araçlardan biridir. Artan dünya nüfusuyla gittikçe tükenen hidrokarbon kökenli enerji kaynaklarının yanında, yeni ve yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının kullanımını arttırmalıyız. Bu doğrultuda Avrupa Birliği, iklim değişikliğiyle mücadele amacıyla enerji verimliliğinin ve yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının payının arttırılmasını hedefliyor. Biz de bu hedef doğrultusunda ülkemizin artan enerji ihtiyacını karşılayarak enerji arz güvenliğini sağlamaya, enerji alanında ülkemizin rekabet edebilirliğini artırmaya ve sürdürülebilir kalkınma temelinde çevrenin korunmasına katkı sağlamaya çalışıyoruz. 2007 yılından bu yana enerji sektöründe kapasitenin geliştirilmesi için Avrupa Birliği finansmanıyla toplamda 106 milyon avro tutarında proje yürüttük ve yürütmeye devam etmekteyiz. Elektrik alanında uygulanan projelerle ülkemizin elektrik sistemi, Avrupa'nın elektrik sistemiyle uyumlu hale getirildi ve elektrik piyasamız geliştirildi. Bilinçli enerji tüketiminin sağlanabilmesi için enerji verimliliği projeleriyle binalarda enerji kimlik belgesi uygulamasına geçildi ve enerji tüketen ürünlerin enerji tüketimlerine dair bilgilendirmeler ürün ambalajlarında yer almaya başladı. Enerji verimliliği ve yenilenebilir enerji alanında Türkiye'nin uygulamaya koyacağı eylem planlarının hazırlıkları da yine Avrupa Birliği finansmanıyla yapılan projeler kapsamında tamamlandı. Daha iyi bir dünya ve ortak geleceğimiz için doğaya daha az zararı olan yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarından faydalanmak amacıyla Avrupa Birliği ile çalışmalarımıza devam edeceğiz.
Değerli sektör paydaşlarımız, Bilindiği üzere aday ülke olarak Avrupa Birliği tarafından sağlanan katılım öncesi mali yardım fonlarından istifade ediyoruz. Enerji ve Tabii Kaynaklar Bakanlığı olarak ülkemize tahsis edilen IPA fonları ile enerji sektöründe kapasite geliştirme çalışmalarını gerçekleştiriyoruz. Bu kapsamda IPA fonları ile 2007 yılından bu yana enerji sektöründe toplamda yaklaşık 106 milyon avro tutarında teknik yardım ve pilot ekipman alımı projelerini yürütmekteyiz. IPA 1 ve 2 dönemlerinde bakanlığımızın ilgili kuruluşları, belediyeler ve üniversitelere yenilenebilir enerji ile enerji verimliliği kapasite geliştirme alanlarında destek sağlarken yine belediyelerimize pilot uygulamalarla yenilenebilir enerji sistemleri, verimli su pompaları ve elektrikli otobüs temini noktasında yardımcı olmaktayız. Ayrıca elektrik ve doğalgaz üretim ve iletiminde verimlilik, deniz üstü rüzgar alanında saha geliştirme ve ölçüm çalışmaları, enerji talebi ve enerji verimliliği modelleme kapasitesinin güçlendirilmesi gibi birçok farklı alt sektörde teknik yardım ve pilot ekipman alımı projelerini yürüttük ve yürütmeye devam etmekteyiz. Önümüzdeki süreçte IPA 3 dönemi kapsamında da enerji sektöründe dönüştürücü bir etkinin sağlanması için kamu, özel ve sivil toplum sektörlerini birlikte ilgilendiren teknolojilerinin yerleştirilmesine, inovasyonun önceliklendirilmesine, sürdürülebilir, verimli, akıllı altyapıların kurulmasına, dijitalleşmenin hızlandırılmasına yönelik projeleri de hayata geçirmek için çalışmalarımızı sürdürüyoruz. Ortak geleceğimizi Avrupa Birliği ile ortak yürüttüğümüz yüzlerce proje ile şekillendiriyor, değerlerimizi yarına taşıyoruz.
Aklımda.
Enerji verimli buzdolabı almak yetmez. Onu verimli kullanmak da aklımda.
Kumandayı verir misin hayatım? Aklımda. Klimayı ideal oranda çalıştırıp enerjiyi boşa harcamamak da aklımda. Çak.
Hayatım, ben markete gidiyorum.
Hayatım.
Aklımda. Yakın yerlere arabayla gitmemek de aklımda. Hem senin geleceğin için, hem aile bütçemiz için, hem de kendi sağlığım için. Enerjimizi verimli kullanmak her zaman aklımda. Enerji verimliliğini aklından çıkartma, aklınla verimli yaşa.
Başladı.
Hadi anneciğim.
Amcanlar ısınma giderlerini yarıya indirmek için ne yaptı?
Yalıtım.
Ne oldu diyordu yani?
Mucize.
Evlenirken beyaz eşya aldınız. Ne sınıfıydı?
Bol artılı. Az elektrik harcıyor.
Evet.
Ne demek yani bu?
Akıllılık.
Ahmet, bazen toplu taşıma kullanıyorsun.
Evet.
Kısa mesafe yürüyorsun
Tamam.
ya. Neden?
Doğa için.
Araba az yaksın diye 2500 devirde kullanıyorsun. Camı klimayı aynı anda açmıyorsun ya. Bu nasıl kullanım oluyor?
Verimli.
Ne verimliliği? 3, 2.
Enerji verimliliği.
Enerji verimliliği tabii.
Aynı kapasitedeki ürünlerden verimli olanı tercih et, aklınla verimli yaşa.
Enerji, insanların yaşamlarını sürdürebilmeleri için gerekli bir kaynak, ülkelerin refahını sağlamak için de en önemli araçlardan biridir. Artan dünya nüfusuyla gittikçe tükenen hidrokarbon kökenli enerji kaynaklarının yanında, yeni ve yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının kullanımını arttırmalıyız. Bu doğrultuda Avrupa Birliği, iklim değişikliğiyle mücadele amacıyla enerji verimliliğinin ve yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının payının arttırılmasını hedefliyor. Biz de bu hedef doğrultusunda ülkemizin artan enerji ihtiyacını karşılayarak enerji arz güvenliğini sağlamaya, enerji alanında ülkemizin rekabet edebilirliğini artırmaya ve sürdürülebilir kalkınma temelinde çevrenin korunmasına katkı sağlamaya çalışıyoruz. 2007 yılından bu yana enerji sektöründe kapasitenin geliştirilmesi için Avrupa Birliği finansmanıyla toplamda 106 milyon avro tutarında proje yürüttük ve yürütmeye devam etmekteyiz. Elektrik alanında uygulanan projelerle ülkemizin elektrik sistemi, Avrupa'nın elektrik sistemiyle uyumlu hale getirildi ve elektrik piyasamız geliştirildi. Bilinçli enerji tüketiminin sağlanabilmesi için enerji verimliliği projeleriyle binalarda enerji kimlik belgesi uygulamasına geçildi ve enerji tüketen ürünlerin enerji tüketimlerine dair bilgilendirmeler ürün ambalajlarında yer almaya başladı. Enerji verimliliği ve yenilenebilir enerji alanında Türkiye'nin uygulamaya koyacağı eylem planlarının hazırlıkları da yine Avrupa Birliği finansmanıyla yapılan projeler kapsamında tamamlandı. Daha iyi bir dünya ve ortak geleceğimiz için doğaya daha az zararı olan yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarından faydalanmak amacıyla Avrupa Birliği ile çalışmalarımıza devam edeceğiz.
Değerli sektör paydaşlarımız, bilindiği üzere aday ülke olarak Avrupa Birliği tarafından sağlanan katılım öncesi mali yardım fonlarından istifade ediyoruz. Enerji ve Tabii Kaynaklar Bakanlığı olarak ülkemize tahsis edilen IPA fonları ile enerji sektöründe kapasite geliştirme çalışmalarını gerçekleştiriyoruz. Bu kapsamda IPA fonları ile 2007 yılından bu yana enerji sektöründe toplamda yaklaşık 106 milyon avro tutarında teknik yardım ve pilot ekipman alımı projelerini yürütmekteyiz. IPA 1 ve 2 dönemlerinde bakanlığımızın ilgili kuruluşları, belediyeler ve üniversitelere yenilenebilir enerji ile enerji verimliliği kapasite geliştirme alanlarında destek sağlarken yine belediyelerimize pilot uygulamalarla yenilenebilir enerji sistemleri, verimli su pompaları ve elektrikli otobüs temini noktasında yardımcı olmaktayız. Ayrıca elektrik ve doğalgaz üretim ve iletiminde verimlilik, deniz üstü rüzgar alanında saha geliştirme ve ölçüm çalışmaları, enerji talebi ve enerji verimliliği modelleme kapasitesinin güçlendirilmesi gibi birçok farklı alt sektörde teknik yardım ve pilot ekipman alımı projelerini yürüttük ve yürütmeye devam etmekteyiz. Önümüzdeki süreçte IPA 3 dönemi kapsamında da enerji sektöründe dönüştürücü bir etkinin sağlanması için kamu, özel ve sivil toplum sektörlerini birlikte ilgilendiren teknolojilerinin yerleştirilmesine, inovasyonun önceliklendirilmesine, sürdürülebilir, verimli, akıllı altyapıların kurulmasına, dijitalleşmenin hızlandırılmasına yönelik projeleri de hayata geçirmek için çalışmalarımızı sürdürüyoruz. Ortak geleceğimizi Avrupa Birliği ile ortak yürüttüğümüz yüzlerce proje ile şekillendiriyor, değerlerimizi yarına taşıyoruz.
Aklımda.
Enerji verimli buzdolabı almak yetmez. Onu verimli kullanmak da aklımda.
Kumandayı verir misin hayatım? Aklımda. Klimayı ideal oranda çalıştırıp enerjiyi boşa harcamamak da aklımda. Çak.
Hayatım, ben markete gidiyorum.
Hayatım.
Aklımda. Yakın yerlere arabayla gitmemek de aklımda. Hem senin geleceğin için, hem aile bütçemiz için, hem de kendi sağlığım için. Enerjimizi verimli kullanmak her zaman aklımda. Enerji verimliliğini aklından çıkartma, aklınla verimli yaşa.
Başladı.
Hadi abicim.
Amcamlar ısınma giderlerini yarıya indirmek için ne yaptı?
Yalıtım.
Ne oldu diyordu yani?
Mucize.
Evlenirken beyaz eşya aldınız. Ne sınıfıydı?
Bol artılı. Az elektrik harcıyor.
Evet.
Ne demek yani bu?
Akıllılık.
Ahmet, bazen toplu taşıma kullanıyorsun.
Evet.
Kısa mesafeyi yürüyorsun
Tamam.
ya. Neden?
Doğa için.
Araba az yaksın diye 2500 devirde kullanıyorsun. Camı klimayı aynı anda açmıyorsun ya. Bu nasıl kullanım oluyor?
Verimli.
Ne verimliliği? 3, 2.
Enerji verimliliği.
Enerji verimliliği tabii.
Aynı kapasitedeki ürünlerden verimli olanı tercih et, aklınla verimli yaşa.
Enerji, insanların yaşamlarını sürdürebilmeleri için gerekli bir kaynak, ülkelerin refahını sağlamak için de en önemli araçlardan biridir. Artan dünya nüfusuyla gittikçe tükenen hidrokarbon kökenli enerji kaynaklarının yanında, yeni ve yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının kullanımını arttırmalıyız. Bu doğrultuda Avrupa Birliği, iklim değişikliğiyle mücadele amacıyla enerji verimliliğinin ve yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının payının arttırılmasını hedefliyor. Biz de bu hedef doğrultusunda ülkemizin artan enerji ihtiyacını karşılayarak enerji arz güvenliğini sağlamaya, enerji alanında ülkemizin rekabet edebilirliğini artırmaya ve sürdürülebilir kalkınma temelinde çevrenin korunmasına katkı sağlamaya çalışıyoruz. 2007 yılından bu yana enerji sektöründe kapasitenin geliştirilmesi için Avrupa Birliği finansmanıyla toplamda 106 milyon avro tutarında proje yürüttük ve yürütmeye devam etmekteyiz. Elektrik alanında uygulanan projelerle ülkemizin elektrik sistemi, Avrupa'nın elektrik sistemiyle uyumlu hale getirildi ve elektrik piyasamız geliştirildi. Bilinçli enerji tüketiminin sağlanabilmesi için enerji verimliliği projeleriyle binalarda enerji kimlik belgesi uygulamasına geçildi ve enerji tüketen ürünlerin enerji tüketimlerine dair bilgilendirmeler ürün ambalajlarında yer almaya başladı. Enerji verimliliği ve yenilenebilir enerji alanında Türkiye'nin uygulamaya koyacağı eylem planlarının hazırlıkları da yine Avrupa Birliği finansmanıyla yapılan projeler kapsamında tamamlandı. Daha iyi bir dünya ve ortak geleceğimiz için doğaya daha az zararı olan yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarından faydalanmak amacıyla Avrupa Birliği ile çalışmalarımıza devam edeceğiz.
Değerli sektör paydaşlarımız, bilindiği üzere aday ülke olarak Avrupa Birliği tarafından sağlanan katılım öncesi mali yardım fonlarından istifade ediyoruz. Enerji ve Tabii Kaynaklar Bakanlığı olarak ülkemize tahsis edilen IPA fonları ile enerji sektöründe kapasite geliştirme çalışmalarını gerçekleştiriyoruz. Bu kapsamda IPA fonları ile 2007 yılından bu yana enerji sektöründe toplamda yaklaşık 106 milyon avro tutarında teknik yardım ve pilot ekipman alımı projelerini yürütmekteyiz. IPA 1 ve 2 dönemlerinde bakanlığımızın ilgili kuruluşları, belediyeler ve üniversitelere yenilenebilir enerji ile enerji verimliliği kapasite geliştirme alanlarında destek sağlarken yine belediyelerimize pilot uygulamalarla yenilenebilir enerji sistemleri, verimli su pompaları ve elektrikli otobüs temini noktasında yardımcı olmaktayız. Ayrıca elektrik ve doğalgaz üretim ve iletiminde verimlilik, deniz üstü rüzgar alanında saha geliştirme ve ölçüm çalışmaları, enerji talebi ve enerji verimliliği modelleme kapasitesinin güçlendirilmesi gibi birçok farklı alt sektörde teknik yardım ve pilot ekipman alımı projelerini yürüttük ve yürütmeye devam etmekteyiz. Önümüzdeki süreçte IPA 3 dönemi kapsamında da enerji sektöründe dönüştürücü bir etkinin sağlanması için kamu, özel ve sivil toplum sektörlerini birlikte ilgilendiren teknolojilerinin yerleştirilmesine, inovasyonun önceliklendirilmesine, sürdürülebilir, verimli, akıllı altyapıların kurulmasına, dijitalleşmenin hızlandırılmasına yönelik projeleri de hayata geçirmek için çalışmalarımızı sürdürüyoruz. Ortak geleceğimizi Avrupa Birliği ile ortak yürüttüğümüz yüzlerce proje ile şekillendiriyor, değerlerimizi yarına taşıyoruz.
Aklımda.
Enerji verimli buzdolabı almak yetmez. Onu verimli kullanmak da aklımda.
Kumandayı verir misin hayatım? Aklımda. Klimayı ideal oranda çalıştırıp enerjiyi boşa harcamamak da aklımda. Çak.
Hayatım, ben markete gidiyorum.
Hayatım.
Aklımda. Yakın yerlere arabayla gitmemek de aklımda. Hem senin geleceğin için, hem aile bütçemiz için, hem de kendi sağlığım için. Enerjimizi verimli kullanmak her zaman aklımda. Enerji verimliliğini aklından çıkartma, aklınla verimli yaşa.
Başladı.
Hadi hanımcığım.
Amcamlar ısınma giderlerini yarıya indirmek için ne yaptı?
Yalıtım.
Ne oldu diyordu yani?
Mucize.
Evlenirken beyaz eşya aldınız. Ne sınıfıydı?
Bol artılı. Az elektrik harcıyor.
Evet.
Ne demek yani bu?
Akıllılık.
Ahmet, bazen toplu taşıma kullanıyorsun.
Evet.
Kısa mesafe yürüyorsun
Tamam.
ya. Neden?
Doğa için.
Araba az yaksın diye 2500 devirde kullanıyorsun. Camı klimayı aynı anda açmıyorsun ya. Bu nasıl kullanım oluyor?
Verimli.
Ne verimliliği? 3, 2.
Enerji verimliliği.
Enerji verimliliği tabii.
Aynı kapasitedeki ürünlerden verimli olanı tercih et, aklınla verimli yaşa.
Distinguished participants, welcome back. Our next speech will be delivered by the R&D Manager of Enerjisa, Mrs. Hülya Erdener Akınç, who will refer to various projects in the area of battery storage and electricity distribution. The floor is yours. Hello, first of all, welcome. This is Hülya Erdener Akınç. I'm the R&D Manager of Enerjisa. Today I will talk about battery technologies and the practices in the energy distribution sector. Before I start my presentation, I would like to give some information about Enerjisa. It's an umbrella company established by E.ON and Sabancı. Under this umbrella company, we have the distribution companies. Taking a closer look at the distribution companies, we can say that we have three regions, Ayadaş, Başkent, and Toroslar. We have 9,000 employees serving more than 10 million customers. We have a network of 231,000 kilometers. Of course, for sustainable, uninterrupted energy, we can say that it's one of the most important criteria in terms of establishing social welfare and in terms of the development level of the societies. When we take a look at the energy sector today, we can say that all the investments are made to cater to the increasing demand. And with the increasing population and urbanization, the demand for electricity is increasing every day. Today, energy generation and consumption is mainly based on fossil fuels. We have the increasing carbon emissions, air pollution, access to energy resources, and problems regarding this access. And in terms of resource use, we can say that the situation is not sustainable. So in order to have security of supply, we need to also focus on the role of the renewable energy resources. But of course, because of their nature, renewable energy resources are intermittent resources and they might cause instability in the system. In order to overcome this instability that could be caused by renewable energy resources such as solar and wind power, we actually need storage systems. For the distribution grids, the main purpose of energy storage systems is to make sure that we convert the electrical energy into a storable format and transfer it to the grid whenever needed. So the energy storage systems mostly are established together with control systems in order to have a safe and reliable system. The energy storage systems are becoming more and more prevalent because of their technical, economic, and environmental advantages. So in terms of energy storage systems applications, we can talk about 7 subtitles. We have energy ancillary services, transmission infrastructure services, distribution infrastructure services, energy management services, off-grid systems, and transportation. Looking at the energy services, we can talk about arbitrage or energy time shift, in other words. It's about storing the electrical energy when the price is cheap and selling it when the demand is at its peak. So, supply capacity control or additional load capacity is about use of the energy storage for upgrade deferral. So, we need to monitor the changes in the load constantly and provide power to the grid or get power to the grid instantly in order to overcome frequency change problems within the grid. Reserve is about the load demand of the system, or when another unit is disactivated, within a couple of seconds, the energy storage source is actually made available to provide energy to the grid. So, we can say that voltage control is all about controlling the level of voltage. Then we have another method whereby we provide reactive power to the grid or retrieve reactive power from the grid. In terms of congestion management in transmission and distribution, we can talk about the fact that these happen when there is a problem regarding the power. So during non-congestion times, storage is made in the grid so that the stored energy is used during congestion. On the distribution and transmission, we have upgrade deferral or investment deferral activities. So it's about energy storage systems being used to defer the investments to be made by using certain systems. Apart from this, we have the off-grid systems and transportation under which we have certain services. For off-grid systems, we can say that they are a sub-branch of the arbitrage application, just like wind and solar power. When we have intermittent energy resources In order to overcome the instability in the system, these systems are activated. For transportation, the storage is especially used for electric vehicles. So, we have different scenarios within the grid applications. So, load and time varies according to the energy storage systems. So you can see the required power and discharge times on the table. For the grid applications, when choosing the storage systems, first of all, we need to see at what distribution level the application will be connected to the system. This is very important. The storage systems, from generation to consumption to location, at many different levels they can be connected to the grid, and the energy storage systems size, location, and the identification of the right technology is all about choosing the connection level rightly. So we talked about these grid applications, and almost all of them are to be seen in many areas, from generation to consumption of energy. So looking at the energy storage technologies, we can actually see three different mechanisms: mechanic energy storage technologies, electric and magnetic energy storage technologies, and electrochemical batteries. Mechanic energy storage technologies is about compressed air storage and pumped hydro, and they control energy management. For electric and magnetic energy storage technologies, we can say that they are very fast in terms of storing the energy. And for electrochemical batteries, we can say that they include grid support, they include the power quality and uninterrupted power for the quality of the grid. So, for different grid operations, we need to select the right type of technology. Looking at these technologies, we can say that they are actually implementable at various different levels. But among these storage technologies, in the last years, we are seeing that lithium-ion storage technologies are at the forefront. They have high productivity and high energy intensity. That's why they are frequently preferred in mobile electronic devices. And lithium-ion type batteries are the fastest developing chargeable batteries. And you don't need to charge them fully or discharge them fully before using them. Especially in most recent years, with the expansion of electric vehicles, lithium-ion batteries are finding a huge growth in the market. According to a study carried out by Bloomberg, lithium-ion type batteries, we are going to have by 2021 154 gigawatts of capacity to be installed, and with this new installment, the total installed capacity is expected to increase to 273 gigawatts. We have LG, Tesla, and BYD as the global manufacturers, the main actors in this sector. What about the outlook for the future? Especially in the beginning of 2010s, we had $1,000 kilowatt hours was as the price, but this went down to $100 in the beginning of 2020s. With the recent developments in the technology, of course, we are seeing a decline in the price of the battery technologies, and they are becoming more and more affordable. So what about the applications in Turkey? In Turkey, with the support of EMRA and under the coordinatorship of ELDER, the Electricity Distribution Services Association, we have an effort to have pilot activities to compare the grids, and we are carrying out the KEDEP project, the Chemical Energy Storage Project. So in this project, we have the chemical type energy storage systems and lithium especially. We are trying to have grid efficiency with the installment of lithium batteries at different capacities and functions. So we want to overcome the outages created by overloading of the grid, or we also want to overcome the outages in technical losses. So 6 distribution companies are going to have pilot practices, and at the end, the results of the activities will be assessed, and they will be used as an input for the preparation of new legislation. Within this framework, we have Başkent EDAŞ that's going to provide a microgrid at Gölbaşı Technopark area, and we have 300,000 kilowatts of solar energy to be supported, and we are expecting the project activities to be completed by the end of the year. Another renewable energy plus storage application is done at Toroslar EDAŞ. Again, this is supported by EMRA, and in remote units such as forests or villages, in order to support the grid and increase the renewable energy installed capacity, we are working on an 8 kilowatt solar power and 9.6 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery system. And this is a modular system to which we can add wind power as well, and we are trying to decrease the need to the conventional systems. Thank you very much for your attention. We would like to thank Mrs. Hülya Erdener Akınç for the information she has provided. We will complete our program today with a presentation by Professor Kadri Aydınol from the Middle East Technical University Center for Energy Materials and Storage Devices, ENDAM, on battery storage research activities. The floor is yours.
Hello. Today, I will be talking about the Center for Energy Materials and Storage Devices at the Middle East Technical University. I'd like to provide you with some brief information. The center is referred to as ENDAM, and the activities at the center started around 2004, especially these projects these activities which are carried out with project support created the infrastructure for the center. And then with the publication on the official gazette, we became an official center in the later years. When we look at our center, we have a structure which brings together many researchers. We focus mostly on materials engineering and chemical engineering activities. In this scope, chemistry and physics and mechanical engineering, electrical and electronics engineering researchers are also intended to be gathered under a single roof. And we have participants from various universities, not just METU, but from Boğaziçi University and RGS University as well. And the activities within ENDAM are being carried out rapidly and intensely since 2018. So when we look at the research that we conduct, well, mostly we focus on energy materials and the storage of electrical energy and devices used in this storage. But of course, as it is known, there are many devices with various working principles that are currently on the market, but we mostly focus on electrical and physical means in electrical energy storage. Now, of course, when you look at this area, there are some applications which require mobility, which come to the fore, and electric vehicles, for example, which require further R&D studies and which require better batteries, are also an area that we try to carry out studies in. Of course, not just mobility, but also for the storage of grid energy, we carry out some activities, and we are trying to fulfill this area as well according to requirements. So when we look at our interest areas mostly, The sodium-ion batteries, which are recently becoming developed, are part of some of our studies. And naturally, of course, this hasn't become rapidly commercialized yet. However, if there are appropriate developments and appropriate scientific advancements, if we move into a commercialization process, that will be very significant, because when we look at the commercial applications today, we see that lithium batteries are more dominant. But if sodium ion also becomes commercially successful, then that will be a very important step, because in the end, sodium is an element which can be found more easily compared to lithium. So this is one of the areas that we focus on, and especially for with the acquisition of value-added material, we believe that commercialization practices can take place in this area. So we are focusing intensely in this area. So naturally, lithium is one of the most important battery types in our day. It's used in many areas, mostly in mobile applications, as it is known. And we can also list electric vehicles as part of this, because there have been various energy sources that have been tested until today in electric vehicles, but mostly lithium-ion batteries have been preferred. Of course, the important thing is to reduce the price of the battery, because 30% of the cost, or sometimes 40% of the cost of an electric vehicle, is the battery cost. And for the commercialization of electric vehicles, this is an important setback. So these studies that have been going on for 20 years, actually since the beginning of the 90s, starting in the US, there have been some worldwide researches conducted, and the main element for electric vehicles is the range, the the distance you can cover, and the battery power, and the affordability, of course. So in the recent years with the studies, there were some important achievements made, and we are trying to contribute to these as well. Another type of battery is the alkaline batteries, and these batteries as well are being used in many implementations. They have various characteristics. We still haven't been able to avoid this type of battery, so we are continuing our activities in this area as well. And then another storage mean is supercapacitors, as you know, and in this area, we focus on active carbon and the pseudo-capacitance element. So in this way, we try to increase the energy of capacitors. Supercapacitors can charge and discharge very rapidly. However, they have low energy intensity, and with the activities across the world and with our activities, we are searching for ways to increase this figure. Another quite appealing battery type is lithium-sulfur batteries. They have some problems within themselves as well, but with the studies being carried out across the world, these problems are starting to become resolved. And if they become commercialized, lithium-sulfur batteries with their high capacity will be very important in significant applications. And another one is the Checo Air batteries. It is very cheap compared to other batteries. Now, as you know, there are some elements that are used in other batteries that are quite expensive, but in zinc air batteries, there are cheaper elements that are being used, and especially for the storage of grid energy. There are important applications across the world for zinc air batteries. And of course, since we talk about grid energy, we have to talk about flow batteries as well. We have some activities that we are carrying out in this area as well within the center, and especially looking at the suspension particles in liquids, we are trying to further develop flow batteries as part of our studies and the research. And if this is realized, then we may have infinite capacity for energy storage. So, other than these, which other areas do we focus on? Now, this was a general framework that I mentioned. Now, when we look at the principles of NDOM's foundation, we have three main elements. One is developing materials, so material synthesis, and these materials need to have superior characteristics. So we try to develop synthesis methods, and let's not just think about it as lithium. We are focusing on everything from lithium to sulfur and all capacitors, and we are trying to develop the materials that are being used. We are trying to make them more cost efficient in terms of development, and we want them to be more efficient as well. And in this framework, we are focusing on some methods that are widespread across the world as well, like sonic chemical, for example, is a method. And with this method, we can produce particles at nanometer levels, and they can have superior qualities. And we have an activity here where we have very small particles, active material that we can produce through this method. And so we have been acquiring materials with superior features. We are focusing on that. This is one of the methods. Another method is, again, for active material production. Microwave synthesis is a method that we used. Again, various oxide and sulfates are trying to be developed efficiently. So as you can see in this photograph here, we can see an active material that is copper chrome, and again we see very small particles, so we can acquire a structure with such small particles. And the main target of these approaches is to be able to quickly, efficiently, and functionally produce material. I mean, yes, you can produce this material with other methods as well, but when you compare it with the properties of the materials produced with these methods, you can see a significant difference. And of course, that is very important for producing material with superior features. So these methods provide advantage to us. Another method is thermal plasma synthesis, and it is quite a sophisticated approach. So plasma is used here, and basically what we do is we send the material here and we evaporate it or vaporize it, and then we solidify it once again. So oxides, carbides, nitrates, a lot of compounds can be produced here, and not just inorganic materials, but carbon-based organic structures can also be acquired with a controlled approach in these devices. And this provides an advantage to us, especially in terms of these materials, especially for oxides. You may need to cover them with carbon for conductivity. And of course, it has to be at nanometer levels. And for carbon coating, we can also do that in this method as well. So that's why all three methods are very important in providing us with the opportunity to provide material with superior features. We have had a lot of publications about how this material is being produced and about reviewing their performance and their qualities. And in the end, as part of our studies in NDOM, one of our main goals is to develop materials and also to develop the material production processes. So all of this is done for a single goal, and that is to enable energy storage devices which are more superior. And of course, another goal we have is device fabrication. So what we mean is basically to be able to fabricate a battery that you can see solidly and which you can use in various applications. Now, this device fabrication infrastructure was developed together with the industry, of course. Mostly we worked with Yiğit Akü, the battery company, and we mostly focused on lithium-ion batteries, and we focused on pouch-type lithium-ion batteries. We have the structure to fabricate these devices, and we have two different dimensions for pouch-type batteries. So we have 20 Ah capacity and with a size of 175 to 200 millimeters. And then we have the 3 Ah capacity, and that is 4 to 7 centimeters when we look at the structure. And basically, we have two different capacity targets for our pouch type lithium-ion batteries, and we are able to fabricate these. Another goal that we have is to test materials. So it could be material produced by us, or it could be material that we receive externally. But basically, we have been formed to serve the academia in general as well. So we want to be able to assist our friends in the academia within our means, especially for electrochemical characterization activities. And we try to provide support, and we have been providing some substantial support, actually. We have worked together with many of our colleagues, and we take the material that they have and turn them into batteries, and we apply all the items that you can see here. We look at the cycle life capacity determination. So we run all these tests, and basically what we do is we test the active material. It could be material that was produced within our center or externally, as I said, but we are trying to meet their needs in characterization. Another approach that we have is to serve the industry, and that is, of course, batteries that have been purchased from abroad are used a lot in the industry. So we run battery testing for these devices because the industry really wants to see the characterization of these batteries. I mean, yes, they do receive some documents when they purchase the battery, but sometimes in terms of implementation, it is unknown whether or not this battery will meet their needs. So in that sense, we are testing the entire battery as well, not just the active material. And we are trying to serve the industry in this sense as well. And we have quite a good infrastructure in this area as well. It is quite satisfactory, and it can serve a variety of needs. And we don't only focus on electromechanical characterization, calorimetric characterization is also very important. And of course, one of the main needs for this is electric vehicles, because as you know, the standards in electric vehicles is quite high. I mean, the heat capacity to understand what kind of damage there could be in the case of a collision. That is some important criteria, and these criteria cannot be tested with traditional methods. So very special devices are required, and with the setup we have in our center, we can also test these batteries, especially for the determination of thermal runaway. I mean, what we are talking about is one part of the battery heating up too much, and that can become explosive or flammable. And of course, it is very critical, especially for electric vehicle manufacturers. And in that sense, both in Turkey and across the world, these tests need to be conducted with great precision. So with the infrastructure that we have established, we are able to serve this purpose as well. And we gradually open this up to our industrialists as well. So battery testing can be done at world standards. We have that capability at our center. So I would like to focus on our publications a little bit. I won't go into all the details because if I were to go into them, it would take very long hours. But basically, I'll give you some brief examples. We have various patents and we have various publications that are listed here, but I can quickly go over these. Now, in terms of supercapacitors, as you know, in terms of high power intensity, they are preferred vastly in many areas. And again, this is the case for electric vehicles as well as some other purposes. Also for grid energy, they can be used, but mostly they are used in hybrid structures. So there is a battery, and then it works in a hybrid manner together with the battery, especially in vehicles and buses. So heavy vehicles, it is very important because when you want to accelerate, you need to go to very high levels and of current, and we can support that with supercapacitors. So we highlight activities and studies in this area, and the developments across the world are quite rapid in supercapacitors as well. And as I mentioned earlier, in supercapacitors, one of the main problems is the low level of energy. So to increase energy, we are having some approaches in place, and we are trying to increase the energy of the device with some redox approaches, and we have been successful in many of these approaches. I talked about lithium-sulfur batteries earlier. They have a very high capacity chemically. However, they do have some problems within themselves, and these problems have been worked on very intensely for a decade now across the world. And we are exerting our own effort to overcome these problems, both in terms of modeling and in terms of experimental studies. We are working to enable the commercialization of these types of batteries. And again, you can see our publications here, especially together with our colleagues at Boğaziçi University. We are conducting these researches, so they have contributed to this as well. Lithium-ion batteries, of course, is an area that we work on quite intensely, and we are seeking new compounds that are not very familiar to the world. So we have some groundbreaking goals here, actually. This doesn't happen overnight, of course. We've been working in this area for a long time, and we have acquired some different compounds. And although they don't have the potential for commercialization right now, we believe that it could be the case in the future. And we also need to further develop the currently known materials, because the materials that are being created in our day, we know have different qualities depending on the manufacturer. And for electric vehicles, the materials need to have superior features. And the same material can have a different performance based on the method that is being used. So you can see different features in the materials provided of different manufacturers. So for very long years, we have been focusing on producing materials for electric vehicles, and we have made a lot of way here. And we have NMC, and it's an oxide, and we also have the cobalt oxide that we use. So we have various patents, various publications in this area, and basically for lithium-ion batteries to be more cost efficient and to enable further range and to boost security in electric vehicles. We are working on this area. And We are also working on the lithium iron phosphate composite, and it has lost its popularity a little bit, but it is becoming quite popular again. We are focusing on that as well. And again, that was the cathodes, and on the anode side, we have silicon and graphite nanocomposites that we are trying to acquire. So we are working in all of these areas. And we don't view these only as material development activities, but we are also focusing on device fabrication. And when we talk about device fabrication, of course, the scale is very important. In that sense, within the umbrella of Yiğit Akü, we have a battery production line. It's quite an industrial line. It's not really like a lab. And as you can see, we have coding, and it goes through the calendar. It's mixed. So it is a fully functional production line. And we are able to produce industrial level batteries there. And here you can also see the production of batteries and how that is completed. Another activity we had was on NCA. We worked together with Aselsan, and as you can see, this is a smaller scale battery, and we have a homogeneous distribution of particles here in the active material. And we didn't just produce the material, we also transformed it into a battery, and we actually packaged it. So a pack of 48 was packaged all together, and we turned it into a module, and we conducted our tests there as well. And for sodium-ion batteries, the activities were very important as well, and we also have a pending patent in this area. And we had anode and cathode active materials that we focused on the development of. And as I mentioned earlier, the materials used in the chemistry of lithium are quite strategic. They aren't existent in every world, and they can be influenced quite easily with the fluctuations across the world. There can be some limitations imposed sometimes for their imports and exports. And when we look at the recent studies or activities in Turkey, there have been a lot of developments in this area. And in terms of nickel as well, Metanica facilities. In terms of cobalt, there is the new facilities that have been built as well. But when you look at it, these are all strategic materials. But sodium is not like that. Sodium was distributed equally across the world, so it doesn't have strategic importance because basically, if you are close to the sea, then you have sodium. But also, you can acquire sodium if you are close to any saltern. So we are working towards producing these types of batteries as well, and we are quite keen on it. We also have some activities in this area. I won't go into the details. Again, we have a pending patent, and we have some publications in this area as well. And it is, we also experience some significant developments in this area. So alkaline batteries, yes, their use is decreasing across the world, but still they are quite an important type of battery. Now, of course, one of the challenges here is the rare earth free element, that active material. These elements are mostly under restrictions by China. So there are certain quotas, and you can't access the material sometimes when you want to. And with the activities we have conducted in this area, we tried to create compounds which don't contain rare earth free elements. And we created quite superior featured battery materials with these studies. Another approach, it's not just for alkaline batteries, but it's also part of the TÜBİTAK project we are carrying out right now. It's part of the lithium-ion batteries. And we call this the combinatorial approach. And we have various chemicals that we are using, and we can create a lot of composites or compounds. So normally it would take us months, but with this we can complete it in several weeks. This is a very special approach, and in the facility we have within Endam, we are able to carry out these activities. Here you can see some images. I won't go into the details very much, but basically within this triangle we can acquire tens of different materials. So our ongoing research themes, this combinatorial discovery is very important, as I mentioned. For lithium-ion batteries, cathode material development is a never-ending effort for us. And for anode materials as well, we are carrying out our activities, and also for sodium-ion batteries. Another issue is something we started working on with a slow pace, and that's fast ion conductors for solid-state lithium-ion batteries. Now, of course, this is a very important aspect because it's mostly liquid electrodes that are used, and they can be flammable. For that reason, solid state materials are very important, and this will be a very important achievement. It is also a study that is conducted widely across the world. Another we have is about flow batteries, especially redox active organic materials, and their features are what we're working on. We're trying to create a framework around this right now, and there are some achievements across the world in this area, and also suspension flow batteries. The flow batteries that have some solid suspension particles inside. We are working on that as well, and we are also working on pseudo-capacitive materials for supercapacitors, especially for TM phosphides. We have a lot of interest, and metal nanowires are being used for flexible capacitors, especially the type that can be used on fabric as well. So when you wear a certain apparel, you can carry your energy with you as you get dressed, basically. So briefly, that's what we have been focusing on. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you have any questions, you can access me through email. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
We would like to thank Professor Kadri Aydınol for the information he has shared. Now we have come to the end of today's workshop. We would like to thank all of our speakers for dedicating their valuable time to us. We would also like to thank you, our distinguished participants, for bearing with us and taking interest in our program. You can access the video recordings of the event and detailed information about the speakers through the event program on the digital platform and the www.enerjietkinlikleri.org website. The recordings of this workshop will be available on the digital platform until May 29, 2021. Finally, I would like to state that we look forward to welcoming you at our next event titled Workshop on Data Management and Digitalization in Energy Generation and Planning, which will be held on April 28, 2021. We hope to see you at our upcoming events. Goodbye.